So what we're working on today, guys, is going to be improving our deep squat position. And I think before we start doing all the stretches and mobilizations, we should actually test the position out and see how it feels. So let's stand up. Take whatever squat stance feels the best on your hips. Usually if you go feet about shoulder width apart, turn the toes out about 30 degrees, that's usually a pretty good starting point. And we're just gonna sit back into the squat and then just take a few seconds just to notice how this position feels. Notice where you feel tight, maybe ankles, maybe hips. Back might feel a little bit stiff. Notice the quality of the position. Can you sit down here and sit up nice and tall? Can you stay in this position and keep your knees out? Do the arches in your feet collapse? Just take notice because we're going to come back to this at the end of the class and retest this position. All right, we can come on out. Shake the legs out. So game plan today is we're going to stretch out all the positions that contribute to a nice deep squat, and we're going to work on activating and strengthening the muscles that pull us down into that position. So first area we're going to look at is going to be the ankles. We're going to start with a stretch to stretch out our calves and our Achilles, and then we're going to work on strengthening the tibialis anterior muscles that pull you into the squat. Okay? So let's come on down to the floor. First position, we're going to have one foot down, and you can kind of point the toes, whatever position feels the best on your knee and your ankle. We're going to keep the heel down, and then from here I'm going to put some weight onto the front knee, and I'm just going to lean into this position, and as you can see, I'm getting a nice angle here at the ankle. I'm going to set a timer, and we're going to do 1 minute in this position, just focusing on our breathing, relaxing, and loading the position up by putting some weight on the front knee. If you feel super tight in your ankles on this one too, and you feel like you can do a little bit more, you can also grab a weight plate or some external resistance just to get you even a little bit deeper into this stretch. As far as the back leg, whatever's comfortable. I'm sitting right back on this heel, but if that's too much, you can come up onto the toes. You can open or close that hip position, just whatever feels better. Take another 20 seconds here, still just leaning onto that front leg, stretching out the Achilles, stretching out the calves. As the time goes on, you're trying to lean more and more forward, getting more of an angle here at the ankle. Take one more big breath in this position and then we'll come on out. Once you've taken your breath, you can lean back. Let's just circle the ankle out a couple times, get it moving. Then we'll transition to the other side. Same stretch on the other side. So find whatever foot position works for you, whatever knee position feels okay. And then we're just going to lean onto that front knee. Stretching out for about a minute here. And as we're doing this, try to stay as relaxed as you can. So one good kind of test to know if you're relaxed or not is if you just kind of push on your tummy. If your tummy feels tight and tensed, then you know that the rest of your body is probably tense. So let's just aim to have a soft belly here. Nice and loose. Just breathing, relaxing into the stretch. And always, you can kind of freestyle with this stuff. It doesn't have to be just one size fits all, lean into it and hang out. You can kind of wiggle around a little bit. You can do little pulses. Whatever feels like the best option for you to relax into the stretch. Another 20 seconds or so and then we'll come on out. And let's do one more big breath each. Once you've done your breath, you can come out of that position. We'll circle that ankle around again, move it around a bit. So now that we've stretched out the opening side of the joint, that's the part of the joint that's being stretched out in the squat, we're going to work on strengthening the closing angle. So for this one, we're going to use a wall. So we've got our wall here. What I'm going to do is lean into the wall. Feet are going to come together. Find a position here you guys can see. Feet are going to come together. I'll try to keep my knees straight. Now what I'm gonna do here is shin raises. So I'm trying to pull my toes to my shin in this position, which as you can tell is gonna mimic the squat position. So I'm sitting back on the wall, feet are together, legs are locked out straight, and we're gonna do 10 shin raises here. Try to raise your toes as high as you can, and then slowly lower back down. Raise as high as you can, and then parachute really slow back down to the floor. If you want more of a challenge on this one, walk the feet farther away. If you want a little bit less intensity, bring the feet closer into the wall. So we're gonna do 10 of these, and on the last one, we're gonna hold that up position for a count of 10, trying to cramp up those shin muscles. Rep number 8, 9, we'll do one more, so we'll bring the toes as high as we can, hold them up there, squeezing for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Parachute back down, shake the feet out, shake the ankles out. So that's one round. We're gonna do one more round of those 2 movements. If you wanna grab a little sip of water, you can. I will. And then we'll go back into it. So start with the same ankle you started with last time. Get the timer ready here. So we're gonna come down to that position so we have the full foot on the floor. Whatever's comfortable with the back leg. Again, you can go up on the toes. You can sit back on the heel. We're gonna put some weight into the front knee again. And now I'm leaning forward. So we're gonna spend another minute here, stretching out the Achilles and the calves. And if you're just joining us on this one, like I was saying earlier, it doesn't have to be just a passive, static, lean forward and hang out. You can do little wiggles in this position, side to side. You can do little pulses forward and back. Whatever feels like you're getting the most out of this stretch. Do another 30 seconds here and then we'll switch it over to the other side. And again, check in, we'll do the belly test, kind of poke your belly, make sure that it's not hard, you're not tensing up. We're nice and relaxed here, staying loose. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sit on back. Let's do a couple little ankle circles each way there. All right, and then we'll get set up. Same thing on the other side. Find whatever ankle, your foot, shin, knee likes the best, and then we're gonna lean into that, loading up the stretch. As you can probably tell by now, the more weight, your body weight you put on this knee, the deeper the stretch is gonna feel. And we want a little bit of weight here. We don't want so much that we're starting to tense up our face or tensen up our abs. Try to find a position where you can relax in the stretch. Good, 30 seconds down. We'll take another 30 seconds here. Let's go 2 more big breaths. Big belly inhales. Exhale, just melt a little bit deeper into the stretch. 1 more. After the second breath, make your way out of it. Let's roll that ankle around. All right, so we've stretched out the opening angle and our ankle in the squat. Now we're gonna work on strengthening those shin muscles again. So we'll come back to the wall, leaning into the wall. Again, the farther the feet go away from you, the harder this is gonna be. The closer in, the easier. We're gonna go 10 reps here. Legs are locked straight. Raising my toes as high as I can, aiming to cramp up my shin muscles, and then slowly lowering back down. Same rep scheme as the last set. We're gonna go 10 of these. And on the last one, we're gonna hold for a count of 10 at the top, squeezing the shin muscles as much as we possibly can. Two more. Last one, all the way up, and then keep on pushing. Keep trying to raise the toes higher and higher. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then lower down. We'll shake them out a little bit. Nice. So that's the exercise we're going to do for the ankles. We're going to keep moving up. Next, we're going to be working on the rotation at the hips. If you want a little sip of water, you can grab one. And then we're going to come on down to the floor. So same idea here. We're going to be stretching out the hips passively for about a minute, and then we're going to actively use the rotators. So let's start in the 90-90 sit. If you've never been in this position before, you're going to have one leg in the front, one leg in the back. We want the front shin to be parallel with the back thigh, and then we want the front thigh to be parallel with the back shin. So what we're going to do here is think about taking our hips, squaring them up with the front side shin, keeping the back as straight as we can, and then hinging from the hips, we're going to hinge down into this stretch. So we're going to find that position where you can hold it without tensing the body up. We're going to breathe and relax here. And again, you can freestyle on this. You can play with different angles. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to feel the stretch in that left glute hip on the front leg. If you feel like you're relaxing, you can hinge a little bit more at the hips. The only thing you want to be sure of on this one is that you're not giving yourself the illusion of getting deeper into the stretch by simply rounding your back to get down. Try to keep that back in a neutral position and hinge at the hip. We'll go another 20 seconds or so here. All right, let's come up to the starting position. We'll take our hands off the floor now, and now let's actively, without using the hands on the floor, rotate the hips to the other side. So we're rotating the opposite 90-90. Take a second, line up your angles like we did earlier, square the hips up to start, keep the spine neutral, and then we'll hinge down. Same thing, 60 seconds of big, deep, relaxing breaths here. And unfortunately, I can't answer questions as we go. I've seen a couple comments pop up. If anybody has any questions about the specific stretches or movements we're doing, there's a little question box at the bottom. Just throw your question in there, and at the end of the class, I'll go through them if there's any. 30 more seconds. Last big deep breath. Exhale a little bit deeper. Now we can make our way out of the stretch. So now that we've gained a little bit of range of motion in that external and internal hip position, now we're going to actively move the hips through those two spots. So we'll be sitting on our butt for this one. Hands are behind us. Go nice and wide with your feet position. And then from here, all we're trying to do is move at the hips. So try not to let the back move at all, side to side. Try not to get hunched forward. Just isolating the rotation at the hips. We're going to rotate in. So I'm coming to the inside edge of my foot, rotating in. If you can touch your knees, go for it. And then we're going to rotate out. Try to get as much separation from the knees as possible. Back and forth here. You'll probably find after the first rep, you'll hit your knees together because you've gained that range of motion. If that happens, just go a little bit wider. Same thing as last time. We're going to do about 10 reps here. Now just kind of locking in that range of motion that we opened up in the passive stretch. teaching our nervous system that this is a position that we're going to be using going forward, so that we better get used to retaining it. Do about 3 more of these. Again, if your knees touch together like mine just did, just go a little bit wider and then try to work on that position. 1 more. Beautiful. After the 10th rep, just shake the legs out a little bit. Just like the shin exercise, calf exercise, ankle exercise, we're going to do that 1 more time. Let's go right into it. So we'll set back up in the 90-90 position. Same thing, let's get the hips squared up as much as we can. Back stays nice and neutral, and then hinging down at the hips. You'll probably feel second time around, you'll be able to melt right down a little bit closer to the floor. One little tip I like to think about in this position, gives me a little bit better stretch. If I'm stretching out the left glute, as I'm hinging forward, I'm thinking about pushing that hip back. So I'm like thinking actively of dragging the hip backwards. It actually won't move too much, but you're gonna feel that stretch a little bit more in the back of the hip there. Fifteen more seconds. Let's come on up. So again, without using your hands, let's switch the position. We're going over to the other 90-90 spot. Angles are all lined up, hip bones are squared up. Now you're taking the other butt cheek, push it back as you hinge down into the stretch. Good. Once you find that position where you're feeling like a 6 out of 10 on the intensity scale, that's where you're going to breathe into the tightness and then relaxing a little bit deeper. And if at any point you're in this stretch and you're just not feeling anything anymore, if you've like totally relaxed your piriformis in this position, then find a different angle and see if you can find another stretch to work in. "20 seconds left here. Okay, let's make our way back up. So now we're going to actively pull the hips into these positions. So feet are out wide, hands are behind us. Think about using the muscles deep within your hips to make this movement happen, okay? Rotating in as much as we can, and then rotating out as much as we can. So we're aiming to touch the knees together, and then we're aiming to touch our knees to the mat beside us. And actually feel the muscles that are doing the rotation here and see if you can actively engage them, actively try to cramp them up. I'm sure you felt that when we were doing the shin raises on the wall. It's very evident what muscles are doing the work on those ones. And on this one, see if you can do the same thing. Feel the muscles that are rotating the hip and then squeeze them super tight. Two more. After those two, bring the legs together, shake them out. Sweet, so as you can see in the squat, we need to have flexible ankles to get down into the position. We need to have good hip rotation so that we can keep our knees out so that we don't collapse inward, thus losing the arch of our foot. And the last piece of the puzzle that we really need to work on is going to be hip flexion. So being able to get our hip up in this position here. So we'll do the same thing. We're going to do a passive stretch, and then we're going to actively use the muscles. So 2 options on this one. You can either go passive stretch lying down. So lying down on your back, you can have one foot on the floor, take your other knee, hands around the shin, knee area, and then bring your knee into your chest. If you want a little bit more challenge on this, work your balance, you can do this standing up as well. Okay, so let's pick one of those positions, and we're gonna go 1 minute on each side, starting now. So I'm actively pulling that knee into my shin, pulling my knee into my chest, working on that flexibility. And as you exhale on this one, see if every time you exhale, you can go knee up a little bit closer to the chest. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can let it go, shake it out. We'll do the same stretch on the other side, whether you're standing or lying down. Clasp the hands around the knee, the shin, kind of connection area there, and then passively bring it into the stretch. So enjoy this part of it now. The active part of this is one of the absolutely worst things you might ever do your entire life. So enjoy this nice relaxing part while you can. 2 more big breaths here. Exhale, bring it a little bit closer to your chest each time. Once you've taken your 2 breaths, you can shake them out. If you want to grab a sip of water, you can. And then we're going to do the active part of this. So this one we're going to do from a standing position. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to passively bring this knee up. And then on the count of 3, we're going to let go. And then for 10 seconds, I'm going to keep trying to drive the knee up closer to my chest, using the hip flexor muscles. We're gonna do 3 rounds of 10 seconds on this one. So pick a leg, let's passively lift it up, and then 3, 2, 1, let it go, but don't let it drop. Keep trying to go higher for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, hold on and relax. We'll take a breath here. Now let's let go and hold it up. Oh, don't fall. 10, 9, 8. Keep driving it up. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold on to it. Let's take a big deep breath. Last round. Here we go. Let go and hold it up. Hold, 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 hold. Try to cramp these hip flexor muscles. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then slowly lower back down. Nice, shake it out. Good stuff. All right, so we'll do the same on the other side. So passively, let's bring the knee up. Once you can't go up any higher in that position, we'll let go in 3, 2, 1, but don't let the knee drop. Keep it up. Up, 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 up. The whole time, I'm actually trying to push higher and higher. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold on. Take a breath. And let go, but don't let that knee drop. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold on. Take your breath. Last round, here we go. Let it go, but don't let it drop. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then slowly let it come back down. Take a few seconds now. We'll shake the legs out, and then we're going to put all of these pieces of the puzzle together. You could take a little water break if you want to. So now that we've kind of stretched out the areas that are tight, restricting us in the squat, and we've activated the muscles that pull us into the squat, next thing we have to do is actually squat to get better at squatting. So what we're going to do on this is I'm going to set a timer for 2 minutes. We're going to try to spend 2 minutes at the bottom of the squat without coming up. If this position is already super tough for you and you feel like you're just going to fall forward or fall back, you can always hold on to a wall to help a little counterbalance. If you have a weight or a dog or some kind of small child, you can hold on to that as well. But the thing I want you guys to think about is not just relaxing in the deep squat, but actively try to pull yourself there, okay? So we're actively gonna try to do this position here, but like we're doing on the wall. So I'm pulling with my shin muscles to pull me into the squat. At the same time, I'm gonna use my glutes to push my knees apart. And then the third position is I'm gonna try to use my hip flexors to pull my knee up. Okay, so it look like this. I'm not just gonna like flop down into it, but let's slowly, we'll do this all at the same time. Find our squat stance. We're gonna pull ourselves into that position. I'm gonna hit the timer now, and we're gonna go for 2 minutes here. So in this position, actively try to pull your toes off the floor. That's gonna engage the shin muscles. Try to push the knees apart. That's gonna engage the glutes. And actively try to take this knee and put it in your mouth. That'll help engage the hip flexors. 30 seconds in, we'll go 90 more seconds on this. If you already have a pretty good deep squat and you want to challenge your mobility in this position even more, start to bring the feet together. The closer the feet come together, the more demands you're going to feel on your ankles and on your hips here. Nice, creeping up on 1 minute. We've got 1 minute to go. If you need to come out of this, that's cool too. Just come on out, shake things out, and then come back down whenever you're ready. Another thing to check on when you're in this position is your back angle. Try not to get too rounded forward, hunched here. See if you can kind of keep the chest up in a nice position. That'll translate well to if you're doing loaded back squats or if you're doing overhead type of squats or Olympic lifting. Good, 20 seconds left. So wherever you're feeling the burn right now, that's gonna be the area that you're probably tight in. If you're feeling a lot of like shin burning, that's probably your ankles that are tight. If you're feeling your hips, obviously your hips. Cool, that's 1 minute, so to come out, let's push the hips up. We'll stand up. From there, let's go hands on the hips, squeeze your butt, and then we'll just bring the body in the opposite direction here for a few seconds. Kind of push the hips side to side. And then just shake it out. So if the squat position is something that you want to get better at, if you want to get comfortable there, being able to move freely in this position, those are 3 areas of the body that you'd want to work on to improve that mobility. If anybody has any questions, I'll go through those now. And just as a little teaser, next week we're going to be working on spinal mobility. So the ability to move our spine different directions, and then just to improve our back health in total. Feet together was a great cue. Yeah, I agree, Dan. That helped me a lot too. See if there's any questions in this little box down here. Any tips for feeling the hip flexor more rather than the opposite glute in the standing hip flex? Sarah, I would say on that one, if you're feeling it more on the glute that you're standing on, same side that you're standing on, do it from a lying position. Lie on your back and then just focus on firing that hip flexor, trying to get the knee towards the chin. That'll take the glute out of it. Next question, for the rotating inwards post 90-90. No matter what I do, I can't get my knees to touch unless my feet are almost straight in front of me. Oops. I can't see the full question. All I can see is that first part. What it's telling you in that position is if you're sitting there and you can't rotate in, then you're missing internal rotation of the hip. So if that's something that you want to specifically focus on, if you can't rotate in very well, then if you're in your 90-90 sit, instead of being squared up with the front leg and working that passive flexibility on the front hip, what you would do is you'd go hands behind you, rotate the shoulders towards that side shin, and then you're going to be working the flexibility on the back hip a little bit more. So that's what I would do, is focus on that passive flexibility and then follow that up with the internal rotation. It's not something that like instantly changes and gets better, but if you practice that, for a couple weeks, you'll definitely notice the hips will start rotating in more. All right, I'll wait one more minute. If anybody else has any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'll just spill my water all over myself. You're welcome, Sarah. You're welcome, Jen. Thanks for coming. So I'll do the same thing that I'm doing with the rest of the videos, is I'm gonna get this uploaded to YouTube, and then it'll be there if anybody wants to go over this again, or if you want to share this with anybody. And it looks like as far as trainers, we're not gonna be getting back in the gym for a little while still. So I'm going to be continuing on with the Thursday morning mobility until I'm back in the gym and working with clients one-on-one on Thursdays. At that point, I'll probably switch this over to a weekend, just some more tips. Any tips for if you feel discomfort in your knees when dropping knees together? Yeah, if this is too intense on the knees, Dan, if you're here, it's too intense on the knees, I would really focus on the cueing of the hip rotation. If you just focus on bringing the knees in together, then you're not going to really focus on the quality of the movement, you're just going to focus on the result. So I focus more on making sure that it's the hip doing the rotation, and then you're not just hinging on the knee. If that's still too much, a way that you can regress this is by lying on your back, lying on your back and then rotating in this way. So that's going to change it from a closed chain movement to an open chain, and it's just going to make it a little bit less intense on the hip and the knee. So that would be the answer to that question. If this hurts your knee, scale it back by G-spines, rotating in this way. Is that a braid? That is a braid, Rachel Sansoni. Yeah. I got long hair now. I got to do stuff with it, or else it's just like a curly mess. Did that answer your question, Dan? 2 thumbs up, so I hope that helped. Okay, I'll wait 30 more seconds. If I don't see any more questions, then I'll shut down the live. And if anybody has like specific topics or anything you want to look into over the next few weeks, then we can dedicate a class towards that. You're welcome, buddy. Cool. All right, so next week, Thursday, 9 a.m., it's going to be all about the spine. So if your back is bad, or if you know somebody who has a bad back, tell them to tune in, because we're going to be working on movements that are going to make your back happy. All right, guys, until then, have a nice day. Enjoy the weather. See ya.